basically every time you present to the students, you're gonna have a different module. Today, we're gonna be doing personal finance, FAQs, and budgeting. And I'm just gonna go through it as if I were teaching another group, but you don't have to follow like word for word what I do. Just, do it however you feel, as long as you're going through the slides and interacting with the students. So I'm just gonna pretend like you guys are a bunch of high school students. So, hi everybody, I'm Francesca. I'm part of FFC. I'm a first year at Northeastern. And today we're gonna be doing personal finance, FAQs, and budgeting. So first we would be doing a financial health questionnaire. So I'll explain that later on when I show you the outline, but basically some modules have things like questionnaires, some have websites or videos, things like that. So whatever it is for the module, you would do that, but you'd have them fill this out and then we would talk about it. But then you could start with the presentation. So just a few facts for you guys. 2 out of 3 adults cannot calculate an interest payment, and more than 1 in 2 adults do not keep or maintain a budget. And a big reason for this is because they're not being taught things like finance in high school. So having you guys all come out and do something like FFC is a great way to get ahead of that. Also, 2 in 5 adults do not have a non-retirement savings account. So a lot of people have a normal retirement account. When you think savings, people always think retirement, but there are a lot of other things that you're going to have to save up for in your life that aren't retirement, and we'll go through that later on in the module, but most people do not take that into consideration. And then 3 in 4 college students wish that they had more help to prepare for their financial futures. So again, this goes back to like most schools aren't teaching kids about personal finance. So that's a reason why most people don't even know what to do with their personal finance. So today's mission is to understand how to effectively spend your income in order to achieve financial security and retire as early as possible. You do not have to retire at 60 or 70 years old. If you guys budget properly and save up your money properly, you can retire a lot earlier, but most people just think, the later is just the norm. Some other learning objectives today, we're going to talk about what to budget, why start a budget, and how exactly to start a budget. So to start off, say I work at a job, I work at Starbucks. So every week I get a paycheck and it tells me how much I made, but that's just a piece of paper. So what could I do with that piece of paper to turn that into money of some sort? Any volunteers? Just raise your hand. Yeah.
You can just keep the check.
Yeah, you could just hold on to it, which wouldn't be the best. Yeah.
Deposit it in a bank account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you could have a cash.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a bank account. All good ideas, yeah. So the 3 main things you can do with it are pretty much what you guys said. You could just hold on to it and not deposit it, which would just keep it as a piece of paper. Or if you have a bank account, you can deposit it into that bank account. And if you don't have a bank account, you can take that check to something like a check cashing center and just get cash straight from there. So, okay, so I decided to put it into my bank account and now I have the money in there. But what exactly should I do next? Should I spend the money? Should I keep it? Or a combination of the 2? Any thoughts? Yeah. Yeah, smart. Other thoughts? Yeah, so you could save it or expend it. But the best way to decide how much you should spend or how much you should save is figuring out your budget. So just get into groups of 3 or 4 around you and just discuss exactly what do you think it means to have a budget or what a budget is. Just like 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so does anyone want to volunteer what their group talked about? Someone volunteer. Come on.
It's like the amount of money you spend with a certain period of time that, it's like it's down. It's a portion of your income.
Yeah, we said it's like a plan for like how you spend, and then we talked about like having a certain like making a certain percentage for savings or like limiting how much you spend in a month or like making.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, you guys pretty much covered it. So a budget is just deciding how much of your income you want to divide into your needs, your wants, or your savings. So this video is going to help explain it a little bit more. I'm not going to show you guys the video, but you would play it for them and then move on. So you and your income. So you have needs, wants, and savings. Needs are obviously things that you need. So food, shelter, anything that you need for survival. Wants are things that you don't necessarily need, but they definitely help better your life. So that way you're not just living off survival. I mean, that would be pretty boring. And then savings are just anything that you would need to save up your money for. It could be big things like retirement or smaller things that we'll talk about later on. So here's some examples of needs. Obviously, an apartment or a house. Yeah, you don't need to have like a mansion. That's not considered a need, but everyone does need a roof over their head. Groceries, obviously we all need food, and things like medical expenses. Obviously, we don't want to go to the hospital, things like that, but you do have to prepare in case something else like that happens. And then we have wants and savings. So if you guys want to get back into those groups, just come up with a couple examples of wants and savings that you might have. Okay, so this group, give me a want that you said.
New pair of shoes.
Nice. Okay, give me another want. That group.
Luxury watch maybe.
You guys back. Give me a want. Yes. So yeah, everything you guys said, obviously there's an endless list of things that you want, but it's good to portion out a part of your income for wants, because if you're just putting everything in your savings or your needs, that's not going to be a very fun life. So don't think that it's a bad thing to spend some of your money on your wants. You just want to be making sure you're allocating not too much of that and you're still thinking about savings. So this group right here, what are some savings that you guys came up with, or just one?
It's a vacation.
That group. Yeah, you guys.
Oh, wait. Are we like the
For savings?
house?
A house.
Sorry.
It's okay. And then the other group in the back, savings. Yeah. So yeah, savings are just things that, you can't just like buy that like in a day. So things like an apartment, obviously you need to save up for that. You can't just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy that apartment tomorrow. Things like college, obviously if you guys are high school students, you may be thinking about going to college. As someone who goes to Northeastern, tuition is a lot of money. So that's another thing you'd have to save up for. And things like travel, like you guys were saying, vacations, you can't just like go to Europe tomorrow. You have to save up for things like that. It's all good examples. So we've talked about budgeting and what it means to have a budget, but why should you start a budget? Just raise your hand what your opinion would be. Yeah.
I feel like when you just like are spending, you kind of don't realize how many expenses are like accumulating, and then you're like running.
Yeah. Any other reasons? Yeah.
Well, just obviously, honestly, you always have that idea of like where you get them at, lowest at,
Yeah. So just to put it simply, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So what exactly that means is having a budget helps you keep track of where your money's going, like you guys said. When you just start spending, you know, you just buy something with cash, or you just charge something on your credit card. You're not realizing how much you're spending. And then, you know, when you're older and you have bills to pay and expenses, then, you know, at the end of the month, you're gonna be like, uh-oh, I don't have any money to pay for my water bill or my utility bill. So budgeting helps you manage that. That way you're not drowning in debt like most people are, because they're not budgeting and they lose track of their money. So when you have budgeting and savings, you could divide that into 3 different things. So short term would be anything less than 6 months, like the pair of sneakers you guys were saying, or those headphones. But medium term is like up to a year. So that could be something like a car. Maybe your parents are going to split your car payment, but obviously that takes a little bit longer to pay because it's more expensive. And then long term is anything like those savings. So it could be something as big as retirement, or something, you know, later on, like getting an apartment or something like that long term. So something to take away, if you guys take away anything from this entire module, is start working early and often. Obviously, you know, not everyone wants to work. You guys are in high school, you want to have fun, but the good thing about where you guys are now is that you're young, and because you are young, you have the greatest thing, which is time, especially when investing in budgeting. So being able to start working early will allow you to have money in the future that you wouldn't otherwise if you started later. And effective budgeting. So just being able to see like what are needs, what are wants, what are savings, and how much you should be allocating each week, each month, each year for all of those. Make sure that you're not going to be in debt later on, and start saving for retirement early. That go back to like the time value of money, which we'll talk about in later modules. But the earlier you start retiring, you're automatically going to make more money just because of time. So it's really good to start saving early for that. And yeah, any questions? All right, so that's basically how you would go through it. We're gonna pull up the outline in a second. But like I said, you don't have to follow exactly what I did, but as long as you're, you know, keeping the students engaged and making sure you go through everything that the outline says, then it's like that for pretty much every module.
Do you want to pull up?
Yeah.
You can just go to the next. We can talk about. Okay, so before she shows the outline, we're just going to talk about our lead instructor certification process. So basically there are 2 types of instructors, a lead instructor and a co-facilitator. So if you want to be a co-facilitator, you don't need to do anything beforehand. You don't need to get certified. You don't have to do anything. So that's a great option for maybe if you're just starting out teaching, you've never been to a lesson before, and you're a little bit like unsure of how they run, and you don't want to be the one to like run the entire lesson. So a co-facilitator would support with like group activities, or just like they would support the lead instructor. And the lead instructor takes more of like the presentation work, and they sort of open and close the lesson. So if you want to start out your teaching like career with being a lead instructor, that's also great. Like my first lesson I ever taught at Fenway High School, I taught as a lead instructor, and like it was totally fine. Like I went through the certification process and I really enjoyed being a lead instructor. So it's definitely not like you have to be a co-facilitator first and then a lead instructor. We really encourage like first time teachers to go for the lead instructor certification.
So what the certification process looks like is, like Francesca delivered this module to all of us right now. She did a great job. She was basically acting like we are all like the group of high school students, and she was one of the instructors. So she delivered this lesson. So that's what the certification is. If you want to get certified, you would deliver a module, you would teach it to a few members of the e-board. And it's like a very chill, very low-key process. We just want to make sure that you can deliver information in a way that's like engaging and also easy to understand. Because, for example, this lesson, it, like I said, wasn't super material heavy, wasn't really that like difficult to understand. But one of the big things that we stress is you don't want to ever talk down to the high schoolers, and you don't want to ever assume that anything is obvious. Like, just because something's obvious to you in college doesn't mean it's necessarily obvious to a 14-year-old. So always being cognizant of that is really important. So that's just really what we're looking for in instructors. It's just people who, you know, want to teach the material, are interested in it, and know how to communicate it in like a simple way. So basically when the certifications will be happening, so that's going to happen in I think it's 2 weeks. It'll be Saturday, February 4th and 5th, and the times will be 10 to 2. We're gonna send out like an email soon, as well as have it on our Instagram. There will be a place to sign up, and you can just sign up for any slot that works for you. If that doesn't work for you, like if you're not available either of those days or times, email our Gmail. The sooner the better, so that we can schedule an alternate time. Like, we don't want you to not get certified just because you can't like make it on those 2 days. So definitely email us and we will find a different time. But otherwise, yeah, if you have any questions about the certification process or about a lesson in general, you can fill out that link. That is a link to the one-on-one training I was talking about before. So that's just for all things lesson, you know, like you can always email the FFC Gmail. But if you kind of want someone to walk you through a portion of the outline, or you're just unclear on something and you just want to meet with someone face to face for a little bit, that's a great way to get to do that. So yeah, does anybody have any questions on what being a lead instructor entails, or the certification process, or anything else? Yeah.
Did you create the slides or are they already created?
No, so it's already created. So we presented like this module today, like personal finance FAQs. Next week, we're probably going to do investing, and then a different module the week after. So you can present any of those 3 modules. And once you sign up, we'll send you the presentation and the outline. So you don't have to create anything. You just have to like present it. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
How many modules do you need to know to be a lead instructor?
So you only have to present 1 to get certified. And once you're certified to teach 1, you're certified to teach any of them. That's why, like, excluding today's lesson, we try to teach modules that are like a little bit harder to sort of just pick up by yourself if you've never seen it presented, because we want to make sure that our lead instructors are able to teach a wide range of modules. Of course, if you have questions, you can always like reach out. You're not expected to know everything, but yeah, you don't have to be certified in an amount. Like, you pick a module. So let's say you want to present on investing, so you would select that you're presenting the investing module, and you present it to us, and then you can present like any of the modules. Yeah, any other questions?
Also, I would say, I'm a first year, so I started FFC last semester, and I just decided to do, like, be lead instructor certified. It's not like pressure at all. You just basically do what I just did to you guys, and the e-board is very like nice, and they're not going to make you scared. So if you're thinking about doing it, I just would, because once you are certified, it's good for until you're in the club. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, you know, obviously like Francesca and a lot of other people on our e-board that are first years got certified in their first year. And yeah, hopefully like we try to make it an easy process. Like, it's definitely just to see like how you teach. And yeah, and if you don't get certified, you can always do it again in future semesters. So don't let that like stop you. But yeah, if you do have any other questions about it, you can just come see us. And another thing, so our February lessons are starting next Wednesday at Fenway High School. So this QR code is to, it basically shows you, if you haven't like filled out any of these before, when you click on this, it will show you all of the lesson times and dates for the Fenway High School lessons, including the commute. It's about like a 15-minute walk from campus. So we build that in just in case you have class They want to make sure that you know the full time of the lesson. So if you want to sign up as either as a co-facilitator or a lead instructor, this is the link that you use. You fill out your information and then you indicate all of the lessons that you have availability for. That doesn't mean that you're going to be teaching at all of these lessons. It just means that you can. So sometimes we only have one person indicating availability for a given date, or like 2 people, and then we choose them by default. Sometimes we have like 4 or 5 people, and then we try to pick like new instructors that haven't had a chance to teach. So if you indicate availability for like 6 of the lessons, it doesn't mean that you're gonna like be teaching for all 6, but it's just like the more you indicate availability for, the more chances you'll have to like be selected to teach. Also, there is a button. Like one of the questions you can select, it's like, are you a certified lead instructor or something? And if you're planning to get certified, click the I'm planning to get certified option, because that way, if there's a lesson before February 4th or 5th, we can have you as a co-facilitator. But if there's a lesson on like February 20th and you've been certified, we want to know that you went through that process. So even if you're not 100% sure that you're like gonna get certified, I would still click it like if you think that's something you might be leaning towards, just because we'll check to make sure you are, obviously, but it's good for us to know so we can gauge how many lead instructors or potential lead instructors and how many co-facilitators are available. So does anyone have any questions on this form? And a link to this will also be sent out like after a meeting later tonight. So that's pretty much all. So our next meeting is going to be next Monday, same place, same time. We're going to be going over our module on investing. If you're not already on our mailing list, I would recommend that. Also, our Slack is really useful because that's how we communicate all information about lessons. So let's say me and Francesca are picked to be lead instructor and co-facilitator at a lesson. Giselle, our director of member engagement, is going to make a Slack channel with the 3 of us, so that she can communicate all necessary information to us, and we can also communicate with each other instead of just like meeting each other for the first time like at the lesson. So yeah, it's a really, really good way to just like streamline communication and make it easier. So definitely recommend joining the Slack. But yeah, do you want to try to pull up that outline?
It's just.
I know.
Want me to try?
But yeah, does anybody have any questions right now? Yeah.
With regards to the size of the classroom that you actually presenting to the employees,
I think it's around 20 kids, give or take. Yeah, it's an elective class, so to my knowledge, it's optional. Like, I mean, they have a variety of elective options, and then they pick like the business finance course that we teach. So yeah, I would say it's about, I've seen it be like 15 to 25, so somewhere in that range of kids. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna show you, so each module, there'll be the slides that I just presented, and there'll also be an outline. So, just go, each has like something like this, so just like basic things to know, like how to present, making sure you're like personable and charismatic. So you can go through that before, and then each will also have like a specified little like schedule itinerary type thing for each module with, it'll have times. This is just to like gauge that way you're like not going over time or whatever it is. So you can just go through it, like for example, that financial health questionnaire, that's embedded into this outline. So you just make sure that you allot time for that. And then it also just has like other things to know, and sometimes there's activities afterwards. Like for this module, there's just like a wrap up and Q&A. But just make sure you look at that as well, because sometimes not all the information is on the slides, and it's just a good way to help you prepare for whichever module it is.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, so like Francesca said, the outline is an outline, so definitely follow it, but you don't have to like stick word for word to, you know, like what Francesca said today, or you don't have to go minute by minute. We really like when instructors sort of make the presentation their own. We love when people share their own experiences with maybe budgeting or investing or anything like that. One quick note, we as college students are not allowed to give any specific investment advice to high schoolers. So definitely steer clear of that. That's just something that we want all of our instructors to be aware of. Obviously, like, we're not knowledgeable enough to give specific investment advice to high schoolers, and it's definitely not something that we want to do. So sometimes, the reason I'm saying this is sometimes instructors do get questions about investments or cryptocurrency or other things like that. High schoolers, they tend to be interested in that kind of stuff. So definitely don't give out any advice. You can just say, I'm not sure what the answer to that is, or I'm not really, supposed to talk about that. If you don't feel comfortable like answering or like shutting them down, just tell them to like reach out to our email and we'll handle it. But yeah, no investment advice. So yeah, that's what an outline looks like. You'll have one for each lesson. And if you have any questions after seeing the outline in the presentation, that's where our email and the one-on-one signups come in hand. So yeah, does anybody have any other questions before we all, yeah.
Are there lessons you can teach other than the lesson? I got mine.
Are we doing FGO?
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we do have